there was this tiny voice in the back of my head that was like, it's going to follow you. It is going to follow you wherever you go. You have to stay here and burn. You got to sit through the fire, man.
Boom. If you're listening, rate, share, subscribe, do all that. Leave a comment. We want to connect with you. If you're listening, you can also watch on Big Moon TV. We do this out of our heart, so we want to connect with you on a deeper level. We're not just saying like and subscribe our shit. It's a deep thing. But today, this is something very exciting for me. So I'm known for my erratic behavior, and I'm known for my specific it's just mental health challenges, sex addiction. Like I've just struggled with that a long time, and years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, friends of mine in the healing community, because I was like the meathead. I was like bodybuilder meathead that was like always interested in the healing community, like really loved it. But they were like, you should sit with Edward. There's this guy Edward who can really help you and really support you. And so today we have this legendary man. We have him finally on. It lined up perfectly. So we have Edward Duell on. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing fantastic.
Legendary.
I had a brilliant day, and I feel like it's just getting more brilliant since I sat down in front of you. Right?
Awesome, dude. So you are a Kambo facilitator.
Yes, sir.
And you've sat with lots of plant medicine, and you work in recovery.
I have, yes.
You have. You work with Sacred Sons.
Yep, absolutely.
So you are fully in this. You are in this life.
I'm in it. I live it. Yeah, 24/7.
So let me just let you go. Tell your story. I know you have a addiction,
Totally.
recovery background story. So tell that story. If you've had experience with 12-step, go for it.
Okay.
Go for it, and I'll ask questions as we go.
Oh, my story. Super interesting. Where to begin? I was born and raised in Niagara Falls, New York, right on the Canadian border there outside of Buffalo. I was raised by a single mother who is a saint, God bless her soul. And my dad was quite absentee. He was just not really around. And I began to self-medicate. I'm really coming into the realization that my self-medication started with pornography probably around the age of 9 or 10.
Wow.
Pretty young. Finding, it's the classic story, especially in sex addiction circles. It's like you find the father's stash.
Yeah, that's my story as well.
Yeah, it's echoed in so many men. And as I've worked with sex addiction with other men and with myself as well. And as I've unpacked that stuff, coming to realize oh, that was a coping mechanism at a super young age.
Definitely.
In a pretty traumatic time. My parents' divorce was not good. The time after my parents' divorce was not good. And as a super young man without a father around, it's we reach for what we can. Yeah. I reached for what I could in those moments. I don't want to get too wrapped up in all of the details. So went to college and in SUNY Oswego State School in New York.
I'm from New York as well, so I know exactly.
So you know Oswego, yeah. And I was lucky enough to discover the study abroad program right away at 18, and I got hooked. And I just did everything I could to study abroad as much as humanly possible. Wow. I did six terms overseas when I was at Oswego. So I got to see the world. By the time I graduated, I'd been to 24 countries. And after that, it was I'm not going to go live in a cubicle job after this. I can't do this. So the next, 13 years was this, for a little bit, it was pendulum behavior of I would go overseas for as long as I could. And then I would come back and try and play house. I'd get a girlfriend, I'd get a job, I'd try to live that life. And I would ultimately blow it up and end up back out on the road until I was 24. And I was I'm just done. And I just completely devoted my life to travel after that. And that was 13 years in total, and about 8 years of really just traveling as much as I possibly could. Been in 70 countries, like been able to see a lot of the world. And I landed in San Diego at the age of 31 with an incredible life resume and a lot of life experience, and a life that was very story worthy, having all this travel under my belt, and a lot of shadow and a lot of secret darkness through that whole time of living a wonderful life that I wouldn't trade for anything. And it was very, like I said, very storybook.
Yeah.
I was a heavy drinker. I was, again, in retrospect, didn't quite realize at the time, but definitely had problems not only with pornography, but just with
hypersexuality.
Hypersexuality. Boom,
Yeah.
you nailed it. That's the term for it right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hypersexuality, and just not being very reverent of my own sexuality and of the field of sexuality in general. And also drugs. I think God never liked opiates. I think by the grace of God, I never got into opiates.
Lucky.
Yeah. But I abused cannabis, and I was when I was living in South America, and cocaine was about the same price as a cheeseburger over here. Like, yeah, for sure. Did a lot of cocaine as well, and got to San Diego when I was 31. I'm 41 now, so it was 10 years ago, and kept living that life for a little while, about another year or two, and then I started to slowly just get into the West Coast lifestyle. I started doing yoga. I started just being like, this is different around here. Like, what is all this stuff here? This isn't. I just came from this rough and ready East Coast world that translated into this rough and ready vagabond backpacker lifestyle. Like, I was a seasonal worker in Alaska. That's how I was able to do a lot of this stuff. I worked on the railroad in Alaska for 5 months a year, and then I'd take off for 7 months. So we lived hard, and I got to San Diego, and there's a femininity to this to the space here, and there's a softness, and I started to kind of fall into that, and yoga was kind of my gateway to all of this. And I moved to San Diego for a woman. That relationship didn't work out. I shortly thereafter ended up actually dating one of my yoga teachers, which for me was, I was like, at that age, at that time in my life, I was like, this woman is a goddess. Like, I have no idea how I ended up with this amazing woman. Like, she's like someone you see on TV, right? And I blew it up, Eric. I blew it up with my pornography addiction.
Wow.
Absolutely. I was not honest about it. It got to the point where it was affecting our sex life.
Definitely.
I realize now in retrospect that it was total feelings of unworthiness and inadequacy and fear of being seen and total fear of revealing myself. Total old school masculine paradigm. Like, just don't talk about it. Just shove it down. And God bless this woman. She found out, and there were no second chances. Yeah. And at the time, I was gutted. In retrospect, like, thank God she kicked me to the curb, because I thrived in that gray area. Where I was like, oh, are we back together? And she was like, this is over. And every 99.9% of me was like, Edward, go back to Alaska, make your money, put on the backpack, go back to Asia, go back to, just go do what you do, go travel. There was this tiny voice in the back of my head that was like, it's going to follow you. It is going to follow you wherever you go. You have to stay here and burn. You got to sit through the fire, man. Wow. Hold your hand to the flame and see what happens. And I did. And I'm not saying it was like this heroic choice. I mean, I drank my way through the first 4 months of that, definitely. And started to come out on the other side due to, of all things, performance storytelling. Yeah. I was big into The Moth, which is huge performance storytelling.
Break down quickly what that is.
The Moth is it's a performance storytelling group, and it's, I mean, at least the last time I checked, it's one of the most popular podcasts in the country. Wow. The Moth podcast. It's true stories of just humans from all over the world, like getting up and kind of doing what we're doing now, but in this short form format. Most of them are like the story slams are 5 minutes. there's a local group in San Diego called So Say We All, and I went to one of their storytelling shows. This was probably 6 months after that breakup, and I was starting to come out of a really deep depression and a lot of booze. And I went to one of those storytelling shows, and I was like, "Ooh, I have to do this." So I applied for the next month's show. It was February, and for Valentine's Day, the theme was dirty talk.
Okay.
And I was like, "Ooh, I got a perfect story for it." So I thought I would tell the story of a very hyper sexually BDSM relationship that I had with a woman when I was 25 years old. That also happened to be like my life rock bottom.
Yeah.
Like me and this woman, she was a drug addict.
Yeah.
I was an alcoholic. The whole thing was a hot mess.
Yeah.
And as a audience member of these storytelling shows, I really appreciated the funny stories. Who doesn't?
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And I got accepted to the next show, this February show, and I was trying to tell a funny story about the darkest chapter of my life.
Yeah.
And my coach, my writing and storytelling coach, who's still a close friend, God bless him, was like, he could smell me from a mile away. He could smell the inauthenticity. He was like, "What is going on here? Like, who is this woman? What are the stakes? What is the truth here?"
Yeah.
And he slowly pulled this story out of me, and I sat and I wrote it, and I don't know if I still have them anymore, but the original drafts of this story are covered in tears.
Wow.
'Cause I was just weeping while I wrote this story. Wow. And it ended up being good because it ended up being truthful and authentic.
Yeah.
And it was my coming out in a way. I got up on stage and I told an extremely dark story about addiction and depression and abuse and an extremely dysfunctional relationship that was a benchmark in my life because it was a rock bottom for me. And I was terrified. I did not tell any of my friends that I was doing this.
Yeah.
Of course, thanks to the power of Facebook, all of my friends found out I was doing it. And I found myself, it was at the Whistle Stop, this bar in South Park. Yes, it's a tiny bar, and they would sell it out. I mean, there'd be literally people watching on the street through the windows. These events were huge. And I found myself looking at well over 200 strangers with my 9 best friends in the front row staring at me, about to spill my secrets on stage. Shit I had never told anybody.
Yeah.
And it was a moment in which pride actually served me really well, because I had prepared so much and I put so much work into it and really poured my soul into it. It was like, A, you got to do this, and B, you're going to do a good job, dude. You're gonna. And I got up there and I just did it, and everything that I was scared of happening, the opposite happened. And in retrospect, this was my introduction to what I call empowered vulnerability.
Yeah.
I got on stage and I spilled my guts in a good way, and people came up to me for months afterwards. I'd be out at a coffee shop or a bar, "Oh, you're that dude that told that story. Like, come on over here," you know?
Yeah.
And people started coming up to me of like, I went through something like that too, or like my last relationship or my girlfriend, or I've got this kind of shame. And it was like, wow, it was extremely liberating. And I got really into performance storytelling with So Say We All. I mean, I was on stage as much as I could be.
Yeah.
And from there, I started my own storytelling organization called the Story Consortium. And this was really the beginning of my spiritual path, was, meeting that woman, losing that relationship, and finding storytelling. And as my spiritual path continued to unfold, I facilitated these open mic storytelling shows in Golden Hill with the Story Consortium, and they began turning into what I would now call counsel. They were healing events. 100%. And it was
organic, completely
totally organic, totally grassroots. I put so much work into it. It was all, I mean, if I go back on like what I probably paid myself about 15 cents an hour to work on this, but I just didn't care. I just loved it. And it created this community, and it was beautiful, and it was healing for a lot of people, and it was really, really healing for me. And that what I did not, again, realize I was doing at the time was I was learning the practice of counsel and carrying counsel and holding space in that way. And as I continued in my medicine path, which was really corollary to this work with the Story Consortium, I found an organization called the Ojai Foundation, which is a wonderful organization out of Ojai, California, that carries the art of counsel, which is the art of holding talking circles. And which,
that sounds beautiful.
It's a simple explanation for what they do, but what they do is quite involved. And I went to the Ojai Foundation. I discovered men's work. I discovered the Native American Church. I started facilitating men's councils. Obviously, the plants came into my life. Ayahuasca came into my life. Kambo, which is not a plant, but an animal medicine, came into my life in a big, big, big way. And my life has really been a wonderful journey, albeit not without its trial and darkness and me getting in my own way in all types of clever and new ways of tripping myself up. However, notwithstanding, my life's been this wonderful journey of what I call following the breadcrumb trail. People either follow the paper trail or they follow the breadcrumb trail. And I was following the breadcrumb trail, and it's led me to where I am.
Wow. That's dope, dude. That's dope. So let's talk about first the coolest thing that I heard, the holding space for men, because it's normal for me. I've sat in a lot of circles with a lot of men and cried and shared my deepest, darkest secrets. But that needs to be normalized. So,
oh my God,
we're, like you and I are unique for experiencing that. Talk about that experience and what that looks like to hold space. Is it topic oriented? Is it like, what is your space holding? What does that look like on a practical level? Is it just free form, like, hey guys, gather and meet? Or is it like,
well, it really, it takes different incarnations, and it's been a journey for me. I mean, when I started my men's council. It was the same way I started my storytelling show. I went to a friend's men's council, which was super informal, albeit very impactful. And then he left town, and it was just this small voice in the back of my head that was like, you got to take over this men's council. Like, no one's going to do it. You saw what it did for you with just one meeting. You got to take this on. So I took it on, and I just... The skill set I had from the Story Consortium was organically transferring over to this men's council. And it was just tenacity, man. I mean, I just stuck at it. I was super, super regular. I didn't care that I wasn't making any money doing it. And I didn't get discouraged when, it was just maybe 3 guys.
With a strong enough why, we can endure anyhow.
Exactly, brother. Exactly. So, and then I found the Ojai Foundation, and I found the Native American Church, and those were 2 big benchmarks. So, I mean, to answer your question of like, what does that look like? There's many different approaches, and I've taken many different approaches. I've learned many different approaches. I mean, it can be as simple and straightforward as an old school talking circle where you just pass around the talking stick and you do your timed shares. It can get into movement exercises. It can get into breathwork exercises. It can get into things like shadow work or what they in Sacred Sons call ritual connection, which is an almost mystical way of creating a container in which men feel safe and inspired to access pieces of themselves that have gone unaddressed or unaddressed in a healthy way, in some cases for decades. Sacred Sons has really changed my practice and changed what I knew was possible. In the
let's talk. Let's go right into Sacred Sons. Let's talk. Go explain to people what that is. I've heard of it. I don't know the details. I know I follow them enough to know, like, I want to play.
Yeah, totally.
But explain to people what it is.
Sacred Sons is a men's organization. The byline, the mission of Sacred Sons is co-stewarding the return of the father archetype. Beautiful. It was founded by 3 men, Jason McKenzie, Albert Bastiat, and Adam Jackson. I believe it's a little over 3 years now. It seems like longer because it's gotten so big so fast. But, Adam and Jason and Albert were all doing their own work. They were friends, but they were doing their own work separately, and they had their own communities. And it was spirit, it was source that just brought them together, and they started to get ideas together and get a plan together. And the first big the big retreats are called convergences.
Yeah.
The first convergence was, I mean, we're in 2021 now. It might have been 2017.
Wow,
I'm bad with years.
Yeah.
And I had been working with Jason McKenzie before that, doing men's work retreats with him, serving Kambo at his retreats. And they would come to, I had a group called Brothers United, which was more of we were affiliated with a Native American church. So we were more straightforward, like talking circle format. And we would do sweat lodges, and then we would do bigger retreats out at our sweat lodge camp in Joshua Tree that would involve sweat lodge, different relating exercises, dyad and triad exercises, talking circles, and peyote as well. And that was super, super effective. So I had been working with Jason with some of his individual projects, serving Kambo at his men's work retreat that was called the Sovereign Man Project. And, he contacted me. I don't even know, man. It was like 9 months later, 8 months later. And, the first retreat him and I did together, I think there were 12 or 15 guys there. Mm-hmm. And he hits me up later on that year and he's like, hey, yeah, we got another retreat on the books. And I was like, cool, just let me know when the date gets closer. In my head thinking, great, another 12, 15 guys, give me a week to prepare. I'm fine. And he hits me up and I was like, how many guys we got? And he was like, 75. I was like, 75? What did you do, man? And that's when he was like, oh, it's Sacred Sons. It's this new thing. And, I've been with them since.
Wow.
And they have blown up. I mean, GQ just did a piece on them.
Wow.
They've gone completely international. And it is holding big, big, big space, that organization. And it's the leadership and the facilitation contingent it's very, very horizontal, which I find is very, very, very healthy. There's a lot of really powerful and intelligent and heartfelt men from different backgrounds, economically, racially, religiously, all different backgrounds who are coming together under this common cause of finding ways for men and creating ways for men to come together and to be real and to be in that space again of empowered vulnerability so that we can heal together and grow together and start thinking about things greater than ourselves. One of my biggest missions as a facilitator of men's work, and I think one of the most important things about the new men's work movement, is awareness of impact. Is like, we as men have got to be aware of our impact and how we take up space.
Definitely.
It's so important.
That's so well put.
Yeah.
That's so well put. I think we underplay that, especially with single mother households.
Oh, yeah.
And there's the idea of toxic masculinity. It's men almost we're not doing the empowerment work in our impact, and understanding that there's a level of divine masculinity in leadership and in vulnerability that it's a big responsibility that I feel like many of us aren't taking on. I know I didn't take it on in my 20s.
I did.
I know, like, I have a child, and I just was not able to show up as a strong man. I just was not able to. And I told myself I'm going to dedicate my 30s to really being honest with myself, honest about what experiences I've had, tell the truth. So I'm all about that powerful vulnerability. It seems like there's no other way to go. It seems like that's my only option.
Yeah,
to,
absolutely.
Just be free.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about your experience working in addiction. Because I'll just say it. I'm a member of 12 Step, and it's very rigid, and it's very like, we do it this way. And if you do things like this, you are almost excommunicated from the church, the church, or definitely looked at differently in the church. For me, as someone who's done Kambo probably 6 times, I'm open about it because it's not truly mind altering. I've had some experiences that were heavy, totally. Where I was in a different space, but it's not mind altering.
It's not psychedelic.
Yeah. But speak about your work in that space, in addiction.
Well, my path was born from addiction, 100%. I mean, as I mentioned, I had my vices and I took them too far. Yeah. And as I progressed on my spiritual path and progressed with the plant medicines, they just started to naturally fall away. Yeah. And I I just have a heart for people who are experiencing addiction.
Yeah.
Because I've been there. I know what it feels like. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And in my work, and especially in my work with men, people were coming to me without knowing my past. Recognizes like there was something there where they were like, I can talk to this guy about what's going on. My teacher in the Native American church, David Warren Goodknife, who's a wonderful, wonderful man and a wonderful teacher, also came from the 12 steps. Long time, like 30 plus years of sobriety, so we were around it, we were around it. And when you were doing this men's work and guys are coming in, it's like, a lot of them are suffering from addiction. A lot of them. And a lot of it is, to bring it back to the sex addiction, like a lot of them are just secretly addicted to porn. It's super common.
I'm 51 days abstinent.
Good for you,
celibate, brother. Off of everything, sex, masturbation, no porn, no
Good
nothing.
For you.
I haven't watched porn in actually quite some time.
Same here.
But it's just been I haven't watched porn for probably a year and some change.
Yeah.
But it's been like, either way, masturbation is to me, it's a problem for me. It's just an unhealthy behavior. So I've recently just cut it all out.
Good for you.
I'm going through a divorce. So I was like, hey, let me grow more by taking away.
Yeah.
So I took meat away, took sex away, took just simplified my life to like get grounded. But I always, I'm very open about it. And there's so much secret stigma, especially in the recovery communities. People say I'm clean off of, I don't drink anymore. I have this secret, deep, dark sex thing. It's like, don't speak of it. Don't say its name. It's like this underlying thing that we all know is existing. We all know guys are watching porn every day, shifting the way they what is healthy sex? That's why I stopped with everything. Because it's like, what is healthy sex?
Absolutely.
It's different for everybody, but what does it even look like without the influence of porn?
Absolutely.
It's a very real experience that I try to speak about so openly. So continue with your work in recovery.
Sorry. So I where was I? Oh, Native American church. So that was my teacher is a long time 12-step member and has been sober, like I said, over I think can push it 4 decades now. So that drew a certain type of crowd. That drew a certain type of crowd. And then I got involved with an organization called Being True to You, which does it's plant-based psychedelic addiction recovery coaching and psychedelic integration coaching. So I went through it's a 5 months, their program. I did it like over 4 years ago. It's hard to remember. I think it was 5 months. It was a full-time job doing this program. This woman, Deanne Adamson, has just created, in my opinion, an incredible program. It's extraordinarily thorough. She's written 3 big textbooks for this program by herself. I'm super impressed. I still facilitate a men's council with them. So I went through their training to become an addiction recovery coach for people who were choosing to use plant medicine as a part of their recovery, and in a lot of cases that was specifically ibogaine or iboga, which is extremely effective, particularly with opiate addiction.
Definitely.
So I did that and broadened my reach and my network in the psychedelic addiction recovery community through that. And then I got hired. This was probably 2015. It had to be 2015 or 2014. I got hired at an aftercare house for people who had gone through the Crossroads Ibogaine Center in Mexico. They had an aftercare house here in San Diego. It was only open for maybe 6 months or something like that. Well, maybe a little longer. I think I was there for 6 months. It was maybe open for closer to a year. And I served Kambo there. And I ended up actually kind of doing a lot more than that there because it was hard not to. It was hard not to get invested in these. A lot of them were younger people, So they'd be there after. Some of the people came in preparation for ibogaine. We had many more who were there after the ibogaine and needed to be in a sober living space because ibogaine therapy is much more effective with coaching afterwards. Much more effective. It's all, you can't just do the Ibogaine and then go back to your
I
environment.
have friends who try to treat their addictions with psychedelics, and there was no integration process. And it's just like, okay, I'm gonna have this acute spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual experience, and then just go off into the world.
Well, that's just the addictive mindset. It's
exactly.
like, give me a quick fix. Can I be better now?
Exactly.
Go do this thing in Mexico, and now I'm good, and I can go back to my homies. It's like, well, no, that's not how it works.
Exactly.
So
talk about that integration process after the Ibogaine experience.
Well, it's very similar to the work I do with people with Kambo as far as the integration experience. It's like these entheogenic plants and Kambo, they boost us up, right? They clear, they detoxify, they help to repattern. So I tell every single one of my clients that comes through my door, if your normal running level is, say, like a 6 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10 for people that are suffering from addiction or autoimmune or whatever, inevitably, especially if you do the inoculation of 3 ceremonies in a row, Kambo's going to boost you up. And you're going to get that hunting magic, and you're going to feel like you're on the 10 out of the 10 side of the scale. And it's going to go away. It's going to fade, right?
It does.
So whether it's Kambo or Ibogaine or ayahuasca or any of these things, it's like they are not the means to the end of themselves. They are help along the way. Beautiful. The real work starts. We always tell people, like, the ceremony starts on Monday, it lasts for the rest of your life. The life is the ceremony. So I tell all my clients, you have to meet the boost that these plants or Kambo gives you by building a solid foundation of healthy practices underneath you, so that when they leave, you don't go back down to where you were, because you are now resting upon that foundation of a yoga practice, a meditation practice, your 12-step meetings, your diet, your men's group, whatever it is. Because you can, and people do it all the time, but to keep going back to the plants without doing any of the integration work is just repeating addictive patterns. And it's disrespectful, in my opinion, to the plants themselves.
So that is such a big deal to me, because I feel like we bastardize but people bastardize the medicines. The ayahuascas, the psilocybins, all those things. Kambo, not so much, because it's not a very pleasant experience.
Which I love. It filters out the tourists.
I love it too. It's something that I do regularly, because I enjoy the humbling nature of it. But we bastardize the medicines by, like, having a good trip or having a fun trip with the homies. And it takes away from, like, the real profound value of these experiences that we have, which I'm pro drug. So, like, do drugs, you know what I mean? Even though I can't, I want everybody else to, but also respect the medicines. God gave us these things to, like, teach us,
Absolutely. Set and setting and circumstance and tradition and lineage has been enormous for both my personal practice as someone who is on the medicine path, as someone who receives these as part of my church, and also as a facilitator. I just stand on the strong lineage and the traditions and do my best as a facilitator, and have teachers who are definitely doing their best to be integrous and impeccable bridges between the old ways and the origins of these medicines and the West, and meeting these Western needs and where we're going right now,
for sure,
and holding them both in a good way. It's extremely important.
It's super important, man. So I've had Ahmad Yanni on. Do you know Ahmad? He's the Kambo guy.
Oh, okay.
In the city, everybody's working with him. It's pretty cool. That's who I did my 3 in a row with, and I've done a few ceremonies with him, which I'd love to work with you.
Yeah, anytime,
this.
Brother.
But tell people from your perspective the Kambo story. The abbreviated version, because this is probably very long.
Well, I mean, like, the origin story?
Yeah, the origin story, and then what holding space looks like.
Okay, well, I mean, the origins, there's the kind of myth of Kambo, which is that there was a pahe, a shaman, who is named Kampum, and this is as it's been told to me, and that his village had fallen ill, and he... Back traditionally, only the shaman would drink ayahuasca. The people would not drink ayahuasca. You would go to the shaman. the shaman would drink ayahuasca and he would heal you in the astral.
Yeah.
So he was doing this and it wasn't working. He wasn't able to heal his village. So he drank ayahuasca and he went on a walkabout in the jungle, and grandmother ayahuasca came to him with a frog in her hand. And it was the Father Medusa Bicolor, the Kambo frog. And she gave him the downloads on how to serve Kambo. And he went back to the village and he served Kambo and healed his village. And he became the first Kambo practitioner. Yeah. And as the mythology goes, again, as it's been told to me, when he passed, his spirit merged with the spirit of the frog, and Kambo became Kampum became Kambo.
Yeah.
It's been used in the Amazon for, untold thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
It was not brought into the West until 1985, when a man named Peter Gorman, who was an investigative journalist, was embedded with the Matses tribe, and he had watched the Matses receive Kambo. And then on a return trip, he received Kambo, and he convinced them to give him 2 sticks. And he came back to the States and he gave 1 stick to a pharmaceutical company, and he sent the other stick to a man named Vitrara Spromer, who was a chemist, a researcher at the University of Rome. He was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for discovering serotonin.
Wow.
And Vitrara Spromer devoted the end of his career really to researching Kambo and other reptile and amphibian peptides, because the physical reason Kambo is so effective is because it's loaded with peptides.
Yeah.
And some of those are bioactive, which means they pass the blood-brain barrier. So I'm paraphrasing the quote, but Vitrara Spromer called Kambo a fantastic peptide cocktail with healing applications unequaled by any other amphibian.
Wow.
So it was right
Powerful
away
words.
Researched to the nines. I did not see it really gaining popularity until 2016. It was starting to pop.
Yeah.
I started serving in 2014. I started receiving in 2013. There was as far as I know, I was the first Kambo practitioner in San Diego.
Yeah,
I don't know anybody who was doing it.
Well, that's who the legend. That's the legend. You know, it was like, go see Edward. Everybody, people who knew me were like, Eric, go see Edward. And I wasn't ready. I wasn't
sure,
called.
Of course,
you know?
yeah.
We actually had a phone call. You may not remember that. But,
you know, now that you say that, I think I do. It was years ago.
It was
wasn't
years ago. It was years ago,
funny,
and I just wasn't emotionally. It wouldn't have had the impact because I was still acting out.
Oh yeah,
I was still in my sex addiction. So it might have made an impact, but when you're ready, when you're ready.
Exactly.
Exactly. But continue the story. Continue.
Well, yeah. So it gained popularity. I think it just rode the wave of medicine, of entheogenic medicine popularity that has been certainly quite prominent here in California. It's not really like this on the East Coast, although they are catching up.
Yeah.
I just think it was kind of, for lack of a better term, like riding on the coattails of ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And because they are used in unison so often traditionally. And I first started to see the Kambo scars, for those of you in the audience who don't know, like it's applied with, they're called gates. They're burns on the skin, and you apply, and we can talk about why you apply it through burns on the skin later. There's a very specific scientific reason for that.
I want you to break that down because I don't know.
Okay.
And I want to know.
I'll tell you. Yeah. So I started seeing the gates on people, and at this point I was just green. I was just new to medicine, and I was like, ayahuasca is the greatest thing on the face of the planet. I'm totally obsessed with it. And in all transparency, at that stage in my journey, I was substituting my addictive tendencies into plant medicine, and was not aware of it. I became aware of it. I was made aware of it, and I was like, ooh, I need to slow my roll and back off here. And I did. And that's a common thing that happens with people that are going with the plant-based addiction recovery as well. It's extremely effective, and that's
kind of, we should probably do that disclaimer because it's interesting for me to be this recovery guy and like kind of leader in my community, or try to be a leader in my community, but then also open the door to this work, because this is valid and profound, but there's a very fine line. There's a very fine line where it gets slippery. Even with myself, with Kambo, it's like, okay, when are we sitting ayahuasca? When are we? And it's like, I have to really if I'm going to do that, like I really have to think about those things. And am I going into this addictive nature, the obsession of addiction, or am I really trying to take the righteous path and, you know, learn and, you know, immerse myself in self-knowledge? So continue. You found yourself in that addictive nature with the plant medicine. Yeah,
that was about after I had a very interesting introduction to ayahuasca in that the Shamans Apprentice and I just star-crossed friendship. I mean, it was strongly karmic in my opinion, you know, and I kind of became her apprentice. It was interesting. So because of this relationship that I had, not a romantic relationship, but this relationship I had with the Shaman's Apprentice, I was around it all the time. Like I got thrown into it. I was just like full on, which in retrospect, it happened how it was supposed to happen. I look at it this way. When I came to the medicine, I was calcified. I was like a human living in a block of shame and addiction and guilt and anger and pain and booze and substance abuse and porn and sex and all this stuff. And the medicine was like a master sculptor. It was like a plant Michelangelo just sculpting me out. And it was like, whew, there's my arm, there's my limbs. Okay, so, you know, who am I to say that I didn't need that amount of medicine for a time?
For a time,
you know, because my path was very, very, very accelerated. However, you know, it was brought to my attention by the medicine itself and by a very, very close brother of mine. He was like,
"Oh, watch out,
bro! What are you doing?" You know, I have a very, and thank God for getting older because it's tempered now. But I was an adrenaline junkie. I was a thrill seeker, and it's so easy to get addicted to the catharsis of medicine.
Definitely
to the fireworks of it.
It's addicting to get. You can get addicted to the catharsis in general.
Totally.
So when you add this metaphysical aspect, it's like a laser beam, you know. So it's alluring for sure.
Especially when you get those big gains in the beginning and you would go through these huge changes and you're like, oh, this is amazing. And then it was my work to appreciate subtlety and to appreciate small micro movements in the right direction. It doesn't always have to be this giant gust of wind, this huge epiphany, you know. It's like, it's here, it's always present. It's about listening, but it's taken me years. I'm still working on it, you know. So I found Kambo. I mean, the first year I started sitting with the plants, I started seeing the scars on people from the Kambo gates, the burns that it's applied through. And I was like, what are these marks that everyone has? And they were like, oh, it's this frog medicine. I was like, there's a frog medicine? Like, you know, I need some of that. Like, show me the frog medicine. But there were no practitioners. So I ended up out in the desert with this wonderful woman. I've told this story 1,000 times on other podcasts and interviews, but the first time I received Kambo, all I remember was laying on the bathroom floor because it was the coldest place I could find in the whole house, and just being like, well, you did it now, son. Like, you're all in this medicine world. Now you took this frog stuff and you're about to die.
Yeah, you're about to. Like, it is so unpleasant.
So intense. The second time that I received Kambo, I had one of the most profound healings of my life to this day. And it was what made me a devotee. I consider Kambo my guru. And this ceremony is what made me a devotee of Kambo. I went in with a very blanket intention of healing my relationship with the feminine. It's pretty broad scale intention there. And the ceremony was intense. I don't even remember where I got the points. I don't know if I passed out or what, but I was in that. I do remember being in that liminal Kambo realm where you're kind of here, but you're kind of not here. And you're just like,
faceful.
Just like sick, just feeling it. And this woman, God bless her, she's an amazing woman, but she wasn't trained the way that I have been trained since then. It's not this. She didn't hold the space the way that I've been since trained to hold it. And I came, you know, went home, went to sleep, and the next morning, and I just didn't remember a lot of the ceremony. And the next morning, I got up to take my morning pee, and a blood vessel had burst in my penis, and all the memories of the Kambo ceremony came flooding back to me from this very broad intention of wanting to heal my relationship with the feminine. The intelligence of Kambo had gone directly to my genitals and was pulling the somatic trauma that I suffered from being molested by a woman when I was 4. but from a babysitter, a teenage girl. And all the memories of the ceremony came back. And the memories of the ceremony were the memories of being molested by a woman and of Kambo going directly to my genitals and just pulling it up and out. And I was vomiting so hard and so profusely, and the medicine was so strong that it actually burst a blood vessel in my penis. And from then I was just like, this stuff's incredible. And I went back. I mean, I couldn't even tell you how many times I researched Kambo that first year. And then she gave me a stick on my birthday about a year later, and she was like, you have my blessings, start serving yourself, which I did, which in retrospect was like ignorance is bliss. Like the IAKP, which I since trained with the International Association of Kambo Practitioners, was at that point not even in America. It was a kernel of an organization in England. There really were no training organizations. I was just kind of like flying blindly out here by myself. And I served myself Kambo in my apartment in North Park like all the time. And I got lucky because I never passed out. But it's like, it is not recommended to serve yourself Kambo unless you are trained to serve yourself Kambo. But again, it was ignorance is bliss. And, then from there, it just kind of started to branch out, and I started to get the craft, and I started to slowly serve other people. And, by the time I got hired at that addiction recovery center, I had enough of a good reputation to I didn't ask for that job. I didn't apply for that job. They heard about me and they offered me the job. And then shortly thereafter, I trained with the International Association of Kambo Practitioners, which was incredible and deeply humbling and deeply, deeply valuable. They really schooled me, and I cannot recommend enough for people to get properly trained if they want to serve this medicine.
Definitely.
There's some good organizations out there. The IAKP does some good trainings. Kambo International. I'm no longer with the IAKP. I'm now with Kambo International. They do wonderful trainings. I'm going to be teaching through Kambo International in the next year. There's one in Peru called Kambo Naturista that has a really good reputation, but it is absolutely imperative that practitioners get trained properly, and it is absolutely imperative that people who receive Kambo screen their practitioners. I am getting on my soapbox publicly about this, and I've done it many times because there's a lot of really wonderful practitioners out there who know what they're doing and are in integrity and are ethical, and there's a lot who aren't. And in the wrong hands, Kambo can be dangerous or fatal.
Wow.
And it is on the verge of being made illegal in Australia because there was a death. And all it takes is one practitioner who is not qualified to be serving this medicine, who serves it to a person who is not medically screened, safe to receive it, and it could shut down the whole show for the entire country.
Gotta keep it sacred.
Keep it sacred, keep it safe. So I have a list of 20 questions to ask your Kambo practitioner.
Yeah, you gave me that list.
Yeah, and if it's like, if they can't answer them, don't go to that person.
Oh, yeah.
Don't go to that person. It's too important. It's way. And this list that I made to screen Kambo practitioners, you could change the language around, and you could use it for practitioners of theogenic medicines as well. Because it's the same with all these medicines. There's so many really good, really qualified practitioners, and there's a bunch who are just totally out of integrity. And I believe that it is the responsibility of people who choose this path to receive and work with these medicines to screen and vet their practitioners. Tim Ferriss said, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's the best advice I've ever heard about entheogenic medicine. He said, if you were getting heart or brain surgery, you would go to the best surgeon you could, and you would research them, and you would know everything about them. And these medicines should be treated with that amount of respect and reverence. Absolutely.
Beautiful. I'm going to sit with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm going to do it.
Let's do it.
Well, soon. We'll do it next week.
Let's do it.
I'll come up here.
It'd be great.
I love it. So real quick, just break down why it's received through the burns. And then I want you, how long has that been? It's been an hour already. Yeah, we could do this for a long time.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, explain why we go through the skin.
Well, it's because Kambo circulates through the lymphatic system.
Yeah.
So they're called gates, and they're made with a small piece of vine called timshi. Kambo circulates through the lymphatic system. It enters through the lymphatic system. It travels up, and you can see it. Where it literally like swims up the veins. It breaks the blood-brain barrier, and it circulates through the heart. So that's why it is served through burns. That's how it's traditionally served. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here.
Yeah.
And in my practice with people after their first ceremony, people who are new to Kambo, I keep the application either on the arm or the ankle. It's called a basic treatment. But after that, it's the way I've been trained and the way I've continued my education independently is to work with a lot of acupuncturists and to really deeply dive into the study of acupuncture, of meridian points, of auricular points,
amazing.
of in the Vedic system from India, nadi lines and marma points. So I also do a modality called theta healing. It's one of my other big modalities, which uses the theta brainwave to access the subconscious and unconscious patterns and belief systems of my clients. I use that to determine point placement, where the Kambo points are going to go on my client's body for the subsequent second, third, fourth treatments. So I'll get the information as where the points are going to go, and then I use applied kinesiology, muscle testing, so that to just verify that the information I'm getting is what the client's body wants. And Eric, I mean, there's literally millions of different point placements on the human body, which is again a really unique part of the burning application. Every treatment becomes like a fingerprint. It's totally different. It's like, okay, this person is working with addiction born out of grief and fear. Okay, so maybe we do what's called the Nada protocol on the ear, and then we do some lung points for grief, and we do some kidney points for fear. And it's extraordinarily powerful. It really deeply changes the experience.
Yeah, I can't wait. We're doing it next week. If your schedule is open,
we'll have to check. We'll have to check the books.
But I'd love to do it as soon as possible. That was amazing. It's amazing to get to know you.
I feel like we just talked for 5 minutes.
It was an hour.
That's crazy,
we can keep going. I love this. And like I said, I'm on like teeter on the line in like the 12-step community. It's like they're not so open to this, you know. But here's what I've done in the 12-step thing. Gives you a God of your own understanding. Yeah. And that's cool. But I've taken that super seriously. And I've taken like conscious contact and deeply seeking, you know, through literature, through meditation, through all these different modalities. It's like I want to continue to go deeper. And Kambo is kind of that first introduction to that. And who knows where it goes from there. It's like dangerous to say that because like in the community they'll be, you know, shun you. But I just want to see where my spirituality can go and where my mind can go, where my heart can go. And processing things on another plane besides just the intellectual and the clinical. Like, okay, I'm going to therapy and we have this disorder and these behaviors. We're going to treat these behaviors with this. So it's like, you know, let's be open to other, you know, if psychotropic medication is okay, which medication can destroy your brain, you know, 100%. Shrink your brain, and it's known to do that. Why is this medicine not okay? Because
it's too effective. There's no money in it.
There's no money in it.
2 mushroom trips, you're fine.
Exactly. So it's interesting. So I've decided to like dip my foot into this world, and I'd love to experience it with you, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So plug anything you want to plug. I don't know if you have.
Yeah, I mean, a good way to stay current on what I'm up to in real time is on Instagram at Kambo Frog is my handle. My website I'm in this beautiful space where I'm booked completely by reputation and word of mouth, like for weeks at a time. So I'm very grateful. I don't like my website is not super updated because it frankly just doesn't have to be. Yeah, but my website's kambofrog.com. Those are the two places to catch up on me. Yeah, Kambo Frog, both Kambo Frog on Instagram and kambofrog.com. But my Instagram handle is more relevant right now. I'm going to be working with Sacred Sons at their big convergence at the end of the month in April, and I've got my men's Kambo rites of passage retreat called Kambo Brotherhood, where I've fused men's work and Kambo into a 4-day rites of passage ritual with 3 Kambo ceremonies, 3 days in a row. I started that in July. We just had one.
Next one?
The next one is actually on the East Coast. We're bringing it back east, brother. I'm stoked. So the next one is going to be outside of Buffalo, New York in July. And then the next one, well, I'm planting the seed to do one in Ireland in September. Wow. And then the next one in the United States is going to be in San Diego in October.
I'd love to participate.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
powerful.
keep
It's
me
a
posted.
tribal rite of passage. It's powerful.
Yeah,
There's only
keep me
12
posted.
guys, and it's a deeply transformative experience.
Beautiful. So we just heard from legendary.
I didn't know I was legendary. That's
you are,
news
and
to
I'm
me.
I'm so stoked. Yeah, I've had like cool people on the podcast, but this is like one of my favorites. So thank you, dude. I appreciate you. We're gonna wrap it up. We're out of here.
Awesome. Thank you for the opportunity.